Pray to the Almighty to bestow upon me His truth, His wisdom, and that I may be worthy of conveying His message, the message of truth and compassion, to this highly esteemed gathering. It is I'm humbled. It is a true honor and privilege to be here, and I find it absolutely necessary first to give my thanks, first to the Almighty, and then to the President Maduro, the country of Venezuela, the beautiful, beautiful country, and of course to the ones who organized this global campaign to return to Palestine, this first global conference that is so pivotal, so important. I've had the opportunity and the pleasure and the honor of meeting some of the esteemed representatives of organizations, but for me this is now, I've made good friends and acquaintances, and of course Mr. Nicola Hapwa, who was the one who brought me here. Now I've met, Nassar, very, very esteemed people, and of course there's so many, everybody else here, and I'm really thankful for all who arranged it, and who are here, who are participating and doing this such godly work to really end this injustice in Palestine. The issue that we have been invited to this very important conference is most probably one of the most crucial points that has to be spoken about, and the underpinning issue of be able to return the Palestinian people to Palestine. Because the narrative, the reason that this Zionist state of Israel, this Zionism, which is the ideology behind the existence of the state of Israel, why in the world community they were able to have this existence, this mere existence of the state, their sort of temporary, God help, which will definitely only be temporary, their victory of being able to suppress and banish a people from their homes that was their rightful homes, the Palestinian people's rightful homes. Why in the world, in the community, they were able to accomplish this and be ratified by the United Nations is because they simply presented a false narrative of false facts, and they based it on that humanity believes in the Almighty, that there is a concept around the world that the world is under the rule and belongs to Almighty, which is to be lauded. But they abused this fact, and they waived the Bible to claim that the Torah, the Bible, the Jewish teaching, gives them the right to the land, and it was their land. And then they again used a false narrative, a false claim. Part of their ploy, part of the narrative is that was a land without a people for a people without a land. And they enjoyed the opportunity of having the microphone in their hand and not relinquishing the microphone to anybody else for way over 60 years, really for over 100 years. And they were successful. We were called the works of the Satan, of Shaitan. Thank God, the Almighty with His compassion allowed to create something which sometimes has bad issues, terrible issues, but it has in everything there is some good, and that is, something was a new invention, alternative media. The internet, there have been bad issues in the internet. But there is a good, of course, and the internet was created, a new invention. And with that new invention, something else was discovered. A new invention, that there's a people called Palestinian people. That there's a thing that was actually there for so many years, that they were there. It wasn't a land without a people. It was a land that was inhabited, fully inhabited, with a royal and an esteemed, a historic existence, the people of Palestine. So this is not a new invention, but it's a newly discovered issue because the world has the opportunity today to be able to appreciate the people of Palestine and the narrative. But this narrative has to be delivered to the people. And that is why this conference is taking place with the help of the Almighty. We have a saying in the Jewish teachings, somebody who's in prison cannot release himself from prison. You need people from the outside to be able to take them out, help them out of that prison. You here from the other side of the world, although your hearts are there, and you are Palestinians who are proudly waving your Palestinian keys to the homes, so you are totally connected. And as a human race, we are all connected. And it's one. We are all here to serve the Almighty and to God, that we say in the Jewish teaching, just as God is compassionate, you must be compassionate. We have to emulate God. And the issue here of Palestinian people, I can just bear witness as my delegation that we have come, as I mentioned, we have one rabbi who's 8th-generation Palestinian, and we are from European ancestry, and so forth. We can just say, if you look at our site, you look at the facts that you can see it's revealed. And if you look at the site, you will see that there is the rabbis, the extensive writing in amongst the religious Jewish people, that every single Jewish community, globally, from the European communities that knew the Zionists at the beginning, from where they came from Europe, and the Jewish communities in Middle Eastern countries, and African countries, and from Lebanon, Egypt, in every single country, Morocco, Tunisia, and every single Yemen, all the rabbinical authorities stood up from the day one, before there was a state of Israel, from the day of the ideology of Zionism, when it was created by these non-believing Jews as a whole, Theodor Herzl, Ben Gurion, and all these people who their only ambition was to transform Judaism from religion to nationalism, to uproot God from the Jewish people, and they wanted to create a state for no reason. They could have just assimilated and practiced their freestyle life of not keeping the Sabbath, not eating kosher, eating pig, and everything they wanted. Yet something drove them to take a land and say, this is a Jewish state. Why? If they didn't want to do religion, they could have done anything else. But we believe, our rabbis warned us then, that they're being driven by the Satan, and they created a land, a state. They wanted to make it in Uganda, in Patagonia, in any place that was good, that was a fruitful land, yet they realized to get support from the world Jewish community and the world Christian community and so forth, they're going to have to use the Jewish religion and the claim that it's godly given to them in the Bible. And they'll be able to claim that was theirs, and the Palestinian people are anti-Semites, and the Muslims are anti-Semites, and they simply don't like Jews, and therefore they want to drive them out. So they used all these different ploys of anti-Semitism, of claiming injustice, and that they are victims. They use all this conglomeration of ideas, false ideas, one after the other, to take this land of Palestine away from the Palestinian people. Therefore, we as a Jew have the obligation to stand up and let the world know that it's patently false. They are being duped. They are being not only forced, but they're being intimidated into a system, into a whole style of making compromises, of saying, yes, we will have to. They stole a house of 20 bedrooms, and being that the original owners only need 5 bedrooms, and these people are coming along, the Israelis, it's a metaphor, that they came into a house that was a house of 20 bedrooms, and then they go to the judge, they're sitting in the house, occupying it, and they say to the judge, why do they need the whole 20 bedrooms? Let's divide it. After all, we have big families, and they only have small families. There's so many Muslim lands. We're such a small state. Why don't they don't have compassion for us? So they're basically thieves, stealing the home, and then demanding that you're selfish if you don't leave them part of this house. I mean, it doesn't us incomprehensible, and yet they were successful in getting the ratification from the United Nations. So we as a Jewish people stand up and say, you should just know, from day one, the Jewish rabbinical authorities from around the world, and as we wave the documents that we have from the chief rabbi of Palestine, who in 1947 pleaded Rabbi Dushinsky with the representatives of the United Nations and said, we furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine, which is in the documents of the United Nations. This was the position shared around the world. This was the Jewish position prior to Hitler. All the Jewish communities banished the Zionists from their midst. After the Second World War, where our leaders were destroyed and the Zionists were given power and land in Palestine, which they then distributed to different people who were landless, who were homeless from after the Second World War, they were then able to gain control and also fear-mongering by telling the Jewish people, oh, the Muslims, you don't know them because you're from Europe, but they're going to destroy you just like Hitler. They're following in the steps of Hitler, so you must support us. Using these different ploys, they gained support. Telling the Christians, they told the Christian people, oh, it's in the Bible that the Jews have to be there, the land of Israel, for the people of Israel. So us, again, representing the rabbinical authorities around the world and the Jewish communities around the world, tell you clearly, the Torah states clearly that since the destruction of the temple made by King Solomon around 2,000 years ago, Jews for 2,000 years, although we had many opportunities to buy land and create a state, we never did this because it's clearly the teaching of the Jewish Torah that we are not to create a state, a Jewish sovereignty at any time, even if it does not affect another people. And we respected that for 2,000 years. We have waited as a Jewish people when God will make a metaphysical change, when He will reveal His glory throughout the world, that all humanity will serve Him in harmony. Then we can go up as a nation with the will and the brotherhood and embracing the people of other faiths, the people of other nations. They will come and give us the right, and they will come up together with us. If I'm standing with a gun telling somebody, give me the land, it's mine, then you know that it's against the teachings of the Torah. Jews never attempted it, and we will never, with God's help, attempt such a thing. So even 1 inch of a Jewish state is not forbidden for us. Now, compounding this sin, this crime, is the fact that they didn't go to Patagonia or Uganda where they wanted to go. When they decided to go to Palestine, they decided for their practical purposes that they felt, they were going to take a land to get the support of the Christians and the not knowledgeable Jews, the ones who don't know the Torah. They're going to take Palestine. By doing so, they had to take the land away from another people. So now, by creating their state of Israel in an occupied land, in a land that was inhabited by the Palestinians, they breached all the laws of the Torah that says you shall not kill, you shall not steal, you should be compassionate, you should show gratitude for people who have given you a home for hundreds of years by the Crusades and by the Inquisition and by World War II. And they breached all of this. They flagrantly dismissed it, ignored it, and ridiculed the words of the Torah as they do every other law of the Torah. And they created a state. So in every facet, the creation of the state of Israel is a rebellion against God, against the Jewish teaching. And yet, they flaunt the Star of David and call it the Jewish state. What nerve, what audacity, and based on a lack of knowledge. And because of this false facts that they have delivered for over 60 years, human rights groups are afraid to get involved in this issue of Palestine because they don't want to get involved in religion and sully the name and be called anti-Semitic. Schools and people are afraid to stand up. They're afraid they don't want to get involved with God. Maybe they're competing with doing something against God. It's lacking, it's crucial that the history, that the facts are there, that this is not a religious conflict. The facts on the ground have to be there. That is why we were speaking about the importance of having, just like after the Holocaust, people plead with their grandparents, tell us the story. Say it into a tape recorder, speak it. Let it be known. Don't let it not be forgotten with the passing of a human being. same time, it has to be recorded the truth, as I say, of the existence of the people of Palestine, the coexistence and what has happened to the people, that each one that shouldn't be the superior off the map, just because there was no internet and no alternative media, that it should be forgotten of all the various sins and all the different communities that were there. It has to be, it's crucial. And once you have that, then you can approach, with God's help, you can make, we mentioned that you can take an education system, simply, basically, with the truths and facts, and work here in Latin America, and then it will be the catalyst to continue around the world of informing the people that they don't have to speak only a two-state solution, making this compromise of giving the thieves part of the house that they should be happy. No, you can make, you put on the facts on the ground that this is pure thievery that was based on a false beginning, that the whole concept of the state of Israel was really based on a basic con job. And therefore, if you do that, then you can, with God's help, educate the children. But it has to be done solidly. It has to be done that the education system should understand it's done sensitively, not with the fact that it's any type of concept of anti-Semitism. Clearly identifying the facts and clearly identifying the fact that the Jewish communities, from Al-Quds, from Jerusalem, invariably, to New York, to Canada, and there is many Jewish communities here who are afraid to speak up, they're intimidated. But the real religious communities do not support the existence of the state. In a few weeks from now, there's going to be the annual march for the Independence Day of Israel in Manhattan. Anybody can see that the religious communities, the very religious certainly, do not support and do not march with that march in New York. Why? If it is Judaism, why is it that the more religious are celebrating the state of Israel? It's because it's simply false, and we not only celebrate it, we celebrate it with God's help, the total and God help speedy and peaceful dismantlement of the state. Give that education, give them facts that the religious leaders, the very religious community oppose it, and once you do that, together with the history, then you will, with God's help, I hope, with God's help, because God is the one who accomplishes, and He will, God help, bring an end to this suffering of the Palestinian people, and an end to the state is clear, because it says in the Torah, why are you rebelling against God? It will not be successful. It will be an end to the state. And as we see, not 10 years go by that they don't have another war. They're never successful. But we know God will help, but we are required to stand up for justice, and we are required to stand up for the truth. And us as Jews are certainly required to stand up and speak out and say, no, not in our name. What is being done is not Judaism. It is a desecration of God and our religion. When we stand up, God sees what we're doing, and God help, He will have compassion and help bring it back speedily. The end, as I say, of the totally the end of the occupation, that it should be a end of free Palestine, and that we as the Jewish people can have the opportunity to express our gratitude and to be able to express our thankfulness. For the people of Palestine, for the Muslims and the Christian Palestinians and the Muslim world and the Arab world who have been so brutally vilified. We can have that opportunity sooner nowadays, and that we know what will happen. We just, as I say, let us all pray to God, because He's the one who accomplishes it. Let us stand up, not be intimidated. Know the difference between Judaism and Zionism. Don't call it a Jewish state. Be careful. You shouldn't be ensnared in their trap. It's a Zionist state of Israel, and don't be fearful that you will be hounded and you will be intimidated. That happens. But stand up proudly and know you're doing God's work. Stand up, and with God's help, we will be successful and bring about, God help, soon God should help, the end of this occupation speedily and peacefully sooner nowadays. Congratulations for this global conference, but God should help next year, and even before next year, we should be coming together, not to consider what we have to do further, but to be able to celebrate what we've started with the end of the occupation of free Palestine. Thank you.